Welcome, Ziv Nevo-Kullman.
Thank you.
Now, last week, the Swedish government decided to urge the EU to freeze the trade agreement with Israel unless more aid is let into Gaza by the Israelis. Now, what's your reaction to this new position by the Swedish government?
We follow the Swedish government for some time. The Swedish government has been saying all along that Israel has the right to defend itself after the atrocious October 7th attack, that the hostages must return, be released immediately, and that Hamas cannot be part of any solution of the day after. This is why we find it counterproductive that at this very crucial moment, we're talking about negotiations for a ceasefire and a hostage deal that Israel accepts, Israel wants, and Hamas constantly rejects. So at this very crucial time, to put the pressure on Israel is to strengthen Hamas to help it.
But this is about the situation in Gaza. And let me just say, the Swedish Prime Minister, Ulf Kristersson, he said, these are terrible scenes, pure scenes of starvation that we see. And Benjamin Duso, who's Minister of International Aid and Foreign Trade, he said, only the government of Israel can end the famine in Gaza.
When we look at the images, these are horrifying images. Horrifying images of children, the suffering of civilians and especially children in times of war is tragic. War is tragic. We didn't want this war. We didn't start this war. This war could end tomorrow if Hamas releases the hostages and gives up power in Gaza. So these are horrifying images. I hope you also take into consideration the horrifying images of Israeli hostages that were taken from a music festival from their homes.
These are people who some were published just the other week.
And these are people who are deliberately starved. I mean, this is part of Hamas propaganda of deliberate starvation of Israeli civilians.
Yeah, but it's not just Sweden saying that Israel is not doing enough in Gaza. A lot of other countries in the EU, you've got France, Britain putting on pressure on Israel. The world's leading body on hunger, the IPC, claims that there's famine on the way in Gaza. The World Food Programme says they need to flood Gaza with aid to prevent mass starvation. Now, why isn't it happening?
So it's important to stick to the facts. Israel signed an agreement with the European Union where we listened to the concerns and we came to an agreement with points to be implemented about making sure that more food goes in. And this is what's happening on the ground. As we speak, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has delivered so far 106 million meals. Just yesterday, it was 1.7 meals that goes directly to the Palestinian people, directly to the hungry people, directly to the people in need. There's also aid going in according to the agreement with the European Union and international organizations. There is aid that is going in through the traditional methods, through trucks or by the air, from the south and from the north. Just to give you some figures, yesterday 307 aid trucks went in. Just so you understand, to feed the entire, and these are from WHO figures, to feed the entire Gaza population, you need about 150 or 160 trucks going in. Yesterday, 307 went in. So what is the problem? The problem is that Hamas is stealing the aid. It's the UN that says that 85% of the aid is being stolen. And the second problem is that the UN and the UN agencies, there's a bottleneck. We delivered 307 aid trucks yesterday, but only 248 of them were uploaded. Right now, as we speak, there are more than 700 trucks waiting in the Palestinian side and not being unloaded yet.
But the UN says the reason that it cannot distribute more aid is that it's hampered by Israeli military restrictions on its movements. Now, Israel has also banned the biggest aid agency, UNRWA, from working in Gaza. So is Israel really doing enough to get food to the starving population in Gaza?
Absolutely. And in addition to the figures that I have mentioned, we have introduced, together with the UN organizations working on the ground, we have introduced humanitarian pauses from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., making sure that on designated corridors, the aid can be delivered. It's a complicated situation on the ground. Israel is only part of what's happening on the ground. But there's Hamas terrorists that is doing everything that it can so the world sees images of hungry people. And there's the United Nations organizations that are on the ground. It's part of a larger situation, and putting all the blame on Israel is ignoring the facts.
Yeah, but I mean, you say that Hamas is stealing food, but senior Israeli military sources say to the New York Times that there's no proof that that's really happening, and the World Food Programme agree when it comes to that.
Well, if you look at the figures that were published by UNOPS, which is the United Nations Office for Project Service, they say that 85% of the aid going into Gaza is being stolen and is not reaching its goal. It's enough to look, just search the internet and you see many cases of aid being looted, and in other cases they take it. They feed their own people, not the starving Israeli hostages that you see on images, and then they sell it at inflated prices. Of course, this is the way that Hamas has been able. We have the example of the previous ceasefire, with 42 days when Hamas released 33 hostages, but also for the first time was able to recruit more militants.
But just one last thing, because, of course, Hamas has a big responsibility for everything that's happening right now. But the Israeli military is occupying most of Gaza, and therefore, under international law, it's Israel's obligation, responsibility to get food and medicine to the people.
Israel has many obligations that we're taking very seriously, and this is why aid is going in the various ways that have been described.